The air in that bank was cold. It was the kind of cold that had nothing to do with the weather outside. Towering marble columns, the hushed, serious tones of the people inside. I sat across from a man in a suit that probably cost more than my car. I had poured my entire heart into a business plan, a dream I had been nurturing for years. He looked at my papers, then at me, and delivered the verdict. The word no echoed in the cavernous room, bouncing off the polished floors. I walked out of that bank with my head held low. The heavy glass door closed behind me with a definitive thud. The walk home was a blur of disappointment. But as I sat on my small porch, watching the sun begin to set, something shifted inside me. A flicker of defiance sparked in the darkness of my disappointment. I made a promise to myself right then and there. I would not let this one closed door be the end of my journey. I would find another way. I would build my dream with my own two hands, brick by brick, even if it took everything I had. This rejection was not an ending. It was a beginning. My new journey began not with a loan, but with a book. I went to the local library and checked out every book I could find on personal finance, small business management, and saving. I spent my evenings and weekends reading, taking notes, and learning the language of money that had once seemed so intimidating. I created budget charts on my kitchen table, tracking every single penny I earned and spent. I took on extra shifts at my job, and then I found a second job, and then a third. I was waitressing, cleaning offices, and walking dogs in my neighborhood. Sleep became a luxury, but my exhaustion was fueled by a powerful purpose. With every dollar I saved, I felt a small victory. I put the money into a simple glass jar on my counter, a visible symbol of my progress. Watching that jar fill up, coin by coin, bill by bill, was more motivating than any speech. My life became a testament to discipline. The temptation for a new pair of shoes or a dinner out with friends was always there, but the image of my bakery was stronger. I learned to cook simple, inexpensive meals. I mended my old clothes instead of buying new ones. After 2 years of relentless work and unwavering focus, the glass jar was overflowing. I had saved enough to rent a small, neglected storefront on a quiet side street, the only place I could afford. But it was mine. The first few months were the hardest. I was the baker, I was the cashier, I was the cleaner, I was the bookkeeper. I would wake up before the sun to start baking, my hands covered in flour, my heart pounding with excitement and fear. The smell of fresh bread, cinnamon, and brewing coffee began to drift down the street, acting as my only form of advertising. At first, only a few curious neighbors would stop by, but I greeted every single person with a warm smile, remembering their names and their favorite pastries. I wanted my bakery to be more than a business. I wanted it to be a haven. Slowly but surely, the word began to spread. People didn't just come for the delicious bread. They came for the feeling of community. I hired my first employee, a young woman from the neighborhood who shared my passion. Then I hired another and another. We were a small family, united by the simple joy of serving our community. When a local family fell on hard times, we made sure they had fresh bread on their table, no questions asked. When the local school needed treats for a bake sale, we donated them with pleasure. My success was not just measured in profits, but in the positive impact we were having. Years passed, and the little shop that could grow beyond my wildest dreams. We opened a second location, then a third. We started a program to train young people who, like me, had a dream but lacked opportunity. One morning, while reading the business section, a headline caught my eye. The very same big national bank that had rejected me was in serious trouble. Mismanagement and bad investments had pushed them to the brink of collapse. Their stock was plummeting, and they were closing branches across the country, including the one in my town, the same place where my dream had been dismissed. A strange mix of emotions washed over me. There was no gloating, but a profound sense of irony. I met with my financial advisors, and together we looked at the numbers. The struggling bank was being sold for just a fraction of its former worth. An idea started to form, so big and audacious that it took my breath away. I made an offer. It was strong and fair, backed by the success I had built from the ground up. The negotiations were complex, but this time I wasn't the nervous girl with a folder full of dreams. I was a confident business owner who understood finance as well as I understood sourdough. I sat at their table, but this time, I was the one in the position of power. And when the deal was finalized, the news sent ripples through our town. The woman who started with a small bakery now owned the bank. I walked through the doors of that same marble building, but this time I wasn't asking for anything. This time the keys were being handed to me. I stood in the exact spot where I had once been told no, knowing its future would be different.